In the final episode of Season 2 of the Apothecary Diaries, we learn that Loulan, former consort of the Garnet Pavilion and member of the She clan, miraculously survived both being shot multiple times by guards and falling from a decent height after taking the final shot. The penultimate episode featured an incredible would-be final scene for one of my now favourite characters, with 2 hints to suggest that Loulan survived. The first being Jinshi's narration that this was the last time he ever saw Loulan, rather than stating outright that she had died, and the second being the man walking through the snow afterwards who sees the silver hairpin shining through a gap in the snow. It was the final moments of Season 2's finale, however, that would give Loulan an even more perfect send-off than her incredible performance on the rooftop in the previous episode. But how did she survive? Surviving the fall after being shot is possible due to the amount of snow to break the fall, but the bullets are a different story and require a poetic mind that suspends some disbelief. So let's suppose most of the initial round of shots weren't accurate. Loulan was freely moving, and the Pfeifers are, at this point in this fictitious history, still new technology, meaning the guards may not have had proper training to use them. And even with Loulan being hit by one of those initial shots, it's very possible that the lack of accuracy by the guards meant that she wasn't hit in any vital organs. The final shot, by incredible fortune, however, hit the silver hairpin given to Loulan by Mau Mau. Now, the purpose of this video is not to discuss the incredible defensive power of this hair ornament, but luck is putting it mildly, I will say. In that final scene of Season 2, after Jinshi and his somewhat large frog have once again been interrupted from making a move on Mau Mau, it's revealed that Loulan did survive and is about to leave for a brand new adventure somewhere across the sea. And it's this ending that is incredibly interesting. Loulan speaks with a trader by the docks and, being the fanatical that she is for insects, sees a Jade Cicada that she immediately wants. She hasn't got any money, so she swaps her life-saving silver hairpin for the Jade Cicada, before revealing her name and running off to start a new life abroad. This is important for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the Jade Cicada is a traditional carving in Chinese culture, symbolises birth and renewal. In ancient China, it's said that jade cicadas were placed in the mouths of those who had died to ensure a peaceful rebirth or reincarnation. As a piece of jewellery, those recommended to wear a jade cicada are those who are overcoming failure, grief, illness, or those seeking a fresh start. So in this sense, it is perfectly fitting. Now we move to the name change. A name change makes practical sense, especially if you're still in the country you're trying to escape from. But was there some significance in her choosing of Tamamo? The name Tamamo roughly translates to jeweled seaweed or precious algae, which matches the colour of her new jade accessory, but there is another far more famous piece of Japanese mythology attached to the name. When Loulan changed her name to Shisui, which allowed her to work undercover as a maidservant, it was in part a homage to her half-sister Suire. So it's unlikely that if Loulan were to change her name again, that it wouldn't have some special meaning behind at least part of the name. Some have speculated that Loulan's relationship with Mau Mau inspired her name, but this is not actually the case. The name Tamamo is a famous one in Japanese mythology, once belonging to a 9-tailed fox spirit, or kitsune, who disguised herself as a beautiful noblewoman and served the emperor as his concubine, with the intent of killing him and seizing control of the country. It didn't work, and after she was discovered to be an imposter, she was hunted down and killed. The earliest stories of Tamamo came from the Muromachi period in Japanese history, somewhere between 1336 and 1573. The Apothecary Diaries is set in a fictitious period of Chinese history, with inspiration taken from several dynasties, Ming, Song and Tang dynasties definitely. The use of Pfeifers, however, would indicate that this story takes place anywhere from the late 16th century to the early 18th. So it's definitely an amalgamation of the best parts of Chinese culture, costumes and aesthetics, mixed in with now some Japanese mythology as well. While it's only my speculation, I would assume that Loulan has no knowledge of the famous 9-tailed kitsune, and that this was more of a homage by the writer to the real-world escapades of the legendary fox spirit. And Loulan being from the White Fox village is, I think, in retrospect, a nice Easter egg on the way to this discovery. In the story of Tamamo, after she's hunted down and killed, it's said that her spirit was then transformed into the Seshoseki, or Killing Stone, which in real life resides in the volcanic mountains of Nazu and is said to kill anyone who comes into contact with it. In 2022, however, something incredible happened. Be it by natural causes or some kind of supernatural force, the Seshoseki split in two. Many now speculate the soul of Tamamo is free again, which, while potentially a sign of interesting times to come in real-world Japan, draws quite a beautiful parallel to Loulan's survival and adds much more meaning to her second chance name. The Apothecary Diaries has never been about surface-level storytelling. It's carefully crafted, thoughtful, and driven by well-developed characters. I never expected to be as invested as I ended up being with Loulan's character, or left thinking about where her story goes from here, but that's the power of great storytelling, and that's what makes this show special.